Today I have with me very special guest SaltyCow. We think that Samuel Hayden could have been the Dark Lord in another universe and have proof for it. You might be convinced by the end of the video. Salty, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for letting me be on.
Yes, we have some really cool stuff today. So the first point that I want to talk about, I want to see your opinion on this too. If you look at this, Dark Lord Hayden, Dr. Samuel Hayden, when you spell it out, each of those have 6 letters to their names and titles. When you put that together, you get 666. And if that wasn't enough, say his name really slowly. S. Hayden. Shaden. I think you can figure out what that sounds like. Does that convince you in any way? I mean, we have more stuff to talk about later, but is that alone?
It's like a smaller thing, but it's still, we're putting our tinfoil hats on for this one here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just as a note at the beginning, this is very much what if talk, but I really think some of this, I don't know, man. Maybe they changed it later on, but it sounds convincing.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like they almost partially changed it because it almost lined up perfectly.
Now, I will say, before we got to talking, before the DLC released, and we got to thinking, what if it really was Samuel or Sammer that was the Dark Lord? Because all of this stuff we're talking about in this video led us to that conclusion. We were wrong, but think about it. So yeah, the 666, whatever, that's kind of convincing. Another thing really kind of stands out. You're going to talk more about this when you've said.
Right, correct. He was a, they call him a Seraphim, or a Seraph as a singular.
That's right.
Which at first, so we were talking about it the other day, and we were like, yeah, so maybe he's like a fallen angel, like what everyone thought, because yeah, it was just like it could have been the Dark Lord. So I was wondering, so in the Bible, like, do they call Satan a Seraphim, or what type of angel was he? So then I went into looking, and in Ezekiel 28, I found that there is a lamentation for the god of Tyre, and that's where it's like God talking about Satan, and he references him as a cherub, which is also like an archangel, just like how the seraph is an archangel. So I just noticed that was an interesting thing. So there's the cherub as biblical Satan, and the seraph as Doom.
Now, something that's worth mentioning, you mentioned a Bible verse. Doom actually, throughout its history, has done a lot of references and borrowing, even back into classic Tower of Babel, Necrovol being that tower, Episode 4, Thy Flesh Consumed, all pulled. The maker text from the Codex Centuries is actually real Bible verses, so it is not too big of a stretch to think that it would do it here too. Why not? They did it a lot of other places.
Right, they definitely have referenced the Bible quite a few times in what they've done.
They've done it since 93, so that's why it led me to believe, like, hey, this could be another part of it. But Seraphim, angel, okay, that makes sense. Sammer was an angel, 666, okay, you can kind of see it, but the next piece of info that we talked about, this is what hit hard. And when I pointed this out, it's like, oh, wow. See, Lucifer, we're going back to the Bible thing because it took a lot of influence, was an angel. That first part, does that sound convincing enough to you, Salty? Because there's a second part. Does the first one sound convincing enough?
The first part is more or less convincing already.
That's just the first. But when you really look into it deeper and you dive into deep Doom lore, Lucifer, biblically, he wanted supreme power. He wanted to basically overthrow God. And he was thrown out of heaven, or in Doom's world, Urdak. What do we know about Sammer leaving Urdak?
We know that he was kind of mischievous, even though he was he was in favor of the father. He still would do his own things, and he still left, basically.
And that really interests me when I look into the Doom lore that you mentioned he left. Sammer took the father, hidden as Vega, out of Urdak. In doing so, it messed up the order. The Maker Singularity, the group that chooses a Khan or what have you, could not pick a Khan. Him also leaving began transfiguration in Makers, which is their dying process. So it messed up a lot of things, which is why at the end of the Blood Swamps, he wants to take that sphere and have the Slayer resurrect Father in physical form, which is what that was, so he could stop him from the transfiguration process. However, no Maker is permitted to go to the Luminarium and do that. He couldn't do it.
Almost like a pseudo-immortality type situation.
Yes.
With what he was doing with the father, it's like sphere and whatnot.
And we know that the actual Dark Lord Devoth, he had the realm Jakad, which was come to known as Hell, and it became known as that because, do you want to explain why Jakad was turned to Hell? What the actual Dark Lord was looking after?
Yeah, so I'm kind of like I haven't done too much research onto the Codex yet, but from what I've seen and what I've read, it seems like Jakad was initially like just a really beautiful realm. It was like almost heaven. I don't know if it was supposed to be heaven or in like it's implied to be heaven, but so Devoth kind of was the ruler of that realm, the primeval of that area, and he noticed that his people or the denizens of wherever that was, or the citizens, whatever you would like to call them, they were not immortal like the father was, and he was really jealous of that. So Devoth was really he yearned to have the same immortality as the father did, and thus made him very angry against his own creator, and he wished to have the same power as the creator, the father.
That sounds awfully like Lucifer biblically in a way, which he was the head of music, which is different, and awfully like those points that we brought up of Samuel leaving and the chaos that he wanted. It's just way too similar. But there's even still more. You ready for me to drop this bomb, Salty?
Honestly, I don't know. I'll brace for it.
So, get ready for this. The name of the Seraphim, Samer, is most likely an allusion to the Hebrew angel of death, Samael. Can you? Samael is the Hebrew angel of death. Satan
Right.
is an angel of death of sorts.
Right,
Samuel,
yeah.
Samer, Samael, they all are pulled from the same sound. That's way too close to be like they meant it. Hugo, if you're watching this video, let me know because I really want to know what's going on behind this. This was actually on the Doom Wiki. Well, what do you think about that, Salty? Is that, I mean, we're not done yet, but is all of this convincing enough to you?
It's stacking up and it's pretty convincing. Like you said, if Hugo was watching this, I need a confirmation on like where this story was or is going. I don't know if it was retconned in place for Devoth being the Dark Lord, or I don't know what's going on, but it's very convincing. Regardless.
This kind of ties in with a couple other things. I have a video coming up about the Doom lore and what we saw in 2016, how it hinted to Eternal, and all of it lines up. So subscribe to the channel if you want to see that. It'll be coming soon. And Salty, you're making a Dark Lord video that goes into a lot more detail than I can do about him. So if you're interested in that, you need to check Salty's channel. I'll link that in the description below and everything. And this is going to... You're welcome. This is going to be a huge stretch, but I could not help but include this in the video. I would feel bad if I didn't include this part. So, Samael, the Hebrew angel... this is a huge reach. I'm so sorry. This is a huge reach. If you're a fan of Dusk, you're going to like this. Samael wrestled Jacob in the Bible. Jacob, spelled differently, Jakob instead of Cob, is the mirror boss of Dusk. The Dark Lord and the Slayer are pretty much equals. So, I know that's a stretch. I don't know if that's actually true. Samael wrestled Jacob. Jacob's the mirror boss of Dusk to the Dusk dude, and Dark Lord's the mirror to Slayer. What do you think about that?
I don't know if that was like implied on id's part as like an Easter egg or something, but it definitely, I don't know, it lines up too perfectly like everything else has. So maybe it's an homage to possibly Dusk.
Maybe not even just Dusk, but the wrestling and the equals and
Right,
going
the
back and
actual
forth
biblical
with the
situation,
with like a tug of war aspect, like we see, the Slayer versus Devoth, the Slayer being over the Earth realm, Devoth being over Jakad. It's just too close. I mean, Samuel, his name in the Bible means the name of God, so that's a little bit different. I mean, the Dark Lord would consider himself that, I would say. I don't know.
Right,
I want to see people in the comments what they say to that for sure. He was a prophet and a king and a leader. He served many roles. He was up there. I don't know. All of this adds up. And what do you think about everything we've got so far? I mean,
I think that probably the biggest things would be the fact that Samuel was an angel and kind of not defiled God, but just went against the Father, just like how Lucifer like went against him, also, just like also how the Dark Lord did. There's a lot of similarities between the Dark Lord and Samuel himself. So I don't know. It's pretty interesting and it lines up incredibly well.
Well, it does. We take a look further into Samuel Hayden. He was a human at one point. He had parents. He had a life. We know that about him for sure. Was this all a lie? I mean, did the real Samuel die, or why did he originally went into robo form? Do you want to tell us a little bit about why he went to robo form, or do you want me to take that one?
I could talk about that a little bit. So, during the construction of Argent Tower, I'm taking this from Samuel Hayden's UAC report file from Doom 2016, where it's Samuel Hayden's more of a central character. And I quote, "During construction of the Argent Tower, Samuel was diagnosed with stage 4 inoperable brain cancer. Samuel was given 6 months to live. He dedicated those last few months to finding a radical solution to his mortality, cybernetic transference." So that enough is another concern that Devoth had, the Dark Lord, about mortality. They're very much centered around mortality and wishing to be immortal.
Wow. I did not even think about that aspect. When you said that, I'm sitting over, I know you can't see, right? I'm sitting over here like, oh, wow. Didn't even think about that.
So yeah, he was a human, or at least he was mortal, but he also yearned for immortality, just like the Dark Lord. So that's another thing that I just recently found out, and I didn't really tell you yet.
Yeah, you didn't, because I'm surprised. So another idea behind this is that never actually happened, and it's a cover-up, because Sammer cloned him. This is one theory out there. Used the cancer as a lie, because as human Samuel, he couldn't traverse hell, but as Robo Samuel, he could, and we know that he cloned him from the DLC, and that they're one the same. So was it a cover-up? I mean,
it could have been.
The UAC is awfully a corrupt organization, aren't they? I mean, the Seraphim was their biggest secret. I don't know.
Right, and I've been wondering. So I know that they say that he was a cloned body, that Samuel was cloned, but like you mentioned earlier, did Samuel exist? Was he an actual human? Did he?
His picture, along with Olivia, is up on the ARC, the Advanced Research Complex wall.
Right, yeah, I remember seeing that. I'm just wondering if could makers even disguise as humans? I don't know. So during the cybernetic transference, almost like the makers going back to the Matrix, kind of cybernetic transference. Was there something in the middle of that where Samuel took the control over the cybernetic body and has a little bit of memory of Samuel? Or I don't know, it's just confusing.
I don't know. It's all a twisted theory, and it all adds up to me. I mean, all these points, like I said, if when you're watching this, I want to know in the comments. This is mainly, do you have anything that you might want to add, or is this pretty much the argument that we would take to court?
Besides that, I guess I could read a little bit of the Samuel Hayden second codex about, I'm not going to directly quote it, but just kind of skim through it.
Yeah.
The fact that he died and then completed the details, he's the one who kind of created his own body. He his own what's it called? His own cybernetic body. And he asked, it's okay, so makers have a lot of brain things. You can see that they're all armored, but they have a big brain. So Samuel, he wanted to transfer his frontal cortex into his cyber, his mech, basically.
Yeah.
His mini mech. So I was wondering, that's why I was talking about the Samuel being in control partly. I don't know. It's just, is there a little bit of humanity of Samuel left in old Samuel Hayden's body? I don't know, because they apparently, according to the codex at least, they had his brain inside of that mech, but now it might not have been his brain. I don't know.
It's hard to tell. I don't know.
Let me just check out Samuel Hayden's third codex. At that point, also, it's just the fact that Samuel Hayden was smart enough to discover Argent. That's basically the only thing that only an angel could probably figure that out. But
yeah,
I don't know.
He knew a lot about Argent energy and
from the beginning.
He knew a lot about Argent and Wraith and Hell energy when we were in Necrovol, didn't he? He's been there. Under different leadership, things would have gone differently, as he said. Let us know in the comments. We're bringing this to you. Convince us before the DLC came out. And be sure to check out Salty's channel. He's going to have a Dark Lord video coming up with the lore. I'll have some extra lore, hypothetical things coming around. But I think
completely.
It's all up to you now. Let us know what you think. My name's Allstin. Thank you for joining me, Salty. I've appreciated being on the channel here.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate being here and getting the support. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.